What up, everybody? Last week, when I reported that Omari Hardwick was listed to appear in Force Season 3, Episode 10 as Ghost on IMDb, I also pointed out that IMDb also had an actress named Emily Hunt listed to be in Episode 10 as well as a character named Kiana / prison visitor, indicating that this Kiana character would be introduced on the show for the first time visiting somebody in jail. And even though the Omari Hardwick listing was removed later on the same day, the Emily Hunt as Kiana / prison visitor is still on there. So regardless if the Omari listing was legit or just something done to get rumors about Ghost's return started back up, we'll just have to wait and see. But I do feel like the Kiana / jail visitor listing is legit, because this isn't a character like Ghost or 2-Bit that anybody has even heard of before. And either though IMDb does have some inaccuracies from time to time, for the most part everything is usually legit. So because we're going to have a new character introduced in the finale who's listed as a prison visitor, this likely means that we're going to see somebody getting arrested and going to jail at the conclusion of the fourth series, similar to how Claudia Flynn, Mirkovich, and Roberto Ortega were all arrested at the end of Season 2. Or how the OG Power series concluded with Tasha, 2-Bit, Cristobal, and Roberto all in jail. And because this Kiana character is an unknown to the Power universe, there's no telling who she's actually gonna be at the jail to visit. So because of that, I'm going to look into some of the clues that there have been so far this season and what Force character is most likely to end up in jail at the end of the Force series. And the character I think is most likely to end up in jail at the end of the Force series is Jannard Samson. We know right now that Jannard is at war with Tommy and D-Mac after the deaths of Diamond and JP, and that Jannard is going to stop at nothing until Tommy is dead, and to a lesser degree D-Mac. And that Tommy and D-Mac are going to stop at nothing until Jannard is dead. So because of that, I feel like if Jannard is going to survive this series, then it's most likely going to be because he ends up going to jail and Tommy won't be able to get to him. Because something we got to keep in mind is that Jannard is trained in MMA and stood toe-to-toe against Diamond in the ring in Season 1. And it was even said that he let Diamond win on purpose, whether that was true or not. So because of that, it likely wouldn't be easy for Tommy to get to Jannard if he gets locked up, like how he got to Claudia, especially now that Kendra, the CEO, who was Tommy and Diamond's connection in the prisons, is dead. In regards to Jannard going to jail, there is clues from earlier in the season that he could, in fact, end up in jail. Keeping in mind when he gave Joey that test bag and Joey ended up dying, before getting out the car, Jannard grabbed the baggie and thought about taking it with him before throwing it back over by Joey, leaving his fingerprints on the bag. In addition to that, we already know that CPD was already investigating into some Fetty-related deaths that had taken place on the north side. And now that Jannard is also in business with Madame Wu, he might end up taking the fall for all those bodies. Ironically, Jannard would end up getting locked up for the same thing that his brother Diamond had to spend 15 years in prison for. After Jannard, I feel like the next most likely character who could end up getting locked up at the end of the fourth series is none other than Tommy Egan himself. As the question lingers, what's next for Tommy after his story in Chicago comes to an end? And where is Tommy going when he leaves Chicago? What if Tommy's story in Chicago comes to an end because he ends up going to prison at the end of the fourth series? Currently on Force, Bill Sang has a written testimony from Vic Flint saying that Tommy got to Stacy Marks and most likely connecting Tommy to Pageant Inc. But when Sang told this to Bobby DeFranco, he told him that he didn't have enough to arrest Tommy yet, that he would have to build a case. But after that, Bobby found out this Sang was compromised when he saw him meeting up with Chan at the Tortoise Club. So because of that, DeFranco is going to use the pictures he took of Chan and Sang as leverage to try to force Sang to make an arrest on Tommy Egan. And because Sang was assigned by Chan to get dirt on Tommy earlier in the season, maybe he knows that Tommy was wanted for the murder of James St. Patrick before he faked his death in New York. And even though Stacy didn't want to get New York involved to prove that she could do what New York couldn't, maybe Sang reaches back out to New York one more time and gets in contact with Blanca Rodriguez, and Tommy could end up getting extradited back to New York at the end of the series for Ghost's murder. And this would be very interesting after Tommy has hashed things out with Tasha and Tariq potentially shows up and saves Tommy's life right before Tommy could end up getting arrested. And personally, I feel like this might be the most interesting way for Tommy's story to end on Force going into Power Legacy. Then we might get a short glimpse of Elisa Marie Proctor and her family watching the TV and seeing the report that Tommy Egan was arrested after they thought he was dead. Next, I have Miguel Garcia, keeping in mind that Miguel's number 2 Cruz got arrested a few episodes ago with 5 keys. And even though Cruz is currently out on bail, that's a lot of weight, and Cruz has to be looking at a decent amount of time. A quick Google search says that the mandatory minimum would be 10 years on federal charges and 15 to 60 years on state level charges. So because of that, we don't know what took place off screen before Miguel posted Cruz's bail, and if he was being interrogated or not, and he could potentially be cooperating with law enforcement right now to get his charges dropped. So because of that, we have to consider the possibility of Cruz snitching on Miguel and getting him locked up, and potentially even snitching on Che and setting Miguel and Che up at their next re-up. And last, I have Roberto Ortega going back to jail. And I'm also going to group the possibility of Taichin Chan and Bill Sang also going to jail along with Roberto Ortega after Bobby DeFranco found out that Sang was compromised in episode 9. Keeping in mind that Delgado said that the judge had left him leave to refile the case, and we know that she's been going back over the paperwork to see if they had missed anything, and is already on to Chan. So because of that, we could potentially see one of those 3 characters, or potentially all of them, getting locked up in the finale. And there you have it. Leave your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments.